Thank you very much, Shabir, and thanks for the invitation to you and, of course, Roger, who suggested me to be invited. And I'm sorry, Katja, that I am first now and you only follow me. And yes, of course, I will talk a little bit about Hungary because, as you, Shabir, mentioned, interesting is the last word we might use about today's Hungary. But first, let me express my great attitude as a Hungarian and European. Also, I would like to express my solidarity with Ukraine. And as many of you already emphasized, that Ukrainians are fighting for their freedom and their independence, but actually not just for themselves, but for Europe and maybe we can say for the globe. And I think we should support this struggle and fight full-heartedly. Actually, this struggle already reminds me of our own revolution, the Hungarian uprising in 1956, when a former generation, I was born after that, fought for freedom and independence, and finally this revolution was brutally oppressed by Soviet tanks. So we should remember this historic facts, and we can only hope, and I hope very much, that this time we have a chance to win over more or less the same evil as previous generations fought against the communist regimes, Stalinism, and so on. Now, my second point is what you have already mentioned, Shabir, is the special case of Hungary, because contradicting to our national history and also our shared mythology, the Hungarian government has developed a hostile attitude towards against Ukraine. I have to emphasize here that this is the government, not our nation, which has created this climate in Hungary, and it expresses this hostile attitude also at European level. Or Viktor Orban, our prime minister, expresses his views at the European Council and all over in Europe, giving interviews, attacking Ukraine, and so on. He tries to block Ukraine's future accession to the European Union. And I might say only because of selfish reasons, because of economic chauvinism. And of course, he has a domestic strategic calculation, which means that creates enemies. He has created already a lot before. You might probably know George Soros of the people in order to mobilize his own political camp. And we are facing national general elections next year. And this is an instrument for him to win support in domestic politics. On the other hand, his anti-Ukrainian rhetoric goes hand in hand with an anti-European narrative. Both are based on accusations and fake news, often using Russian narrative or just creating his or his government's own rhetoric, maybe not going so far calling Zelensky a Nazi, because that would be too much for the Hungarian public, but using a language against Zelensky and the Ukrainians, which is very similar to Russian propaganda. Actually, this sort of accusation also serves Orban's own geopolitical dreams about a non-liberal world order or maybe disorder. In the pro-governmental media, which actually dominates the national public sphere, according to a loyal historian and advisor to Orban, even the massacre in Bucha cannot be proven, or even worse, it was the product of the Ukrainian military, not the Russian army. President Zelensky himself is portrayed as an arrogant, stupid guy who blackmails the European Union, whilst his country is not sovereign at all and has already lost the war. So actually, the pro-governmental media and Orban himself go very far, and so on. Orban often stands alone in Europe with his troublemaking political line, which is based on, he would call it realism, but I would call it false realism and cynicism. And I hope that he will remain isolated in the future, or even better, perhaps, he might be defeated at the parliamentarian elections next year in Hungary. Now, finally, because we are running out of time, I think, so I don't want to talk too much, we have heard already about Belarus, Georgia, and other countries. And now I have talked about the Hungarian case, but especially because it can be useful for North Macedonians to study and learn about democratic backsliding within the European Union. But Hungary is not a unique case, a special case anymore. Authoritarianism and illiberal populism have spread over in the whole world. Unfortunately, illiberal populist political parties and their leaders play more and more significant role, and their influence is growing in the international arena. We should not allow them to set the agenda. Liberals and Democrats have to fight back with determination at national, European, and global levels, here at home in Hungary, or on the Balkans, and even in the United States, as it was already mentioned. We have to follow the fascinating example of the Ukrainian people. Ukraine should win, and so should liberal democracy win worldwide as well. Thanks for your invitation and your attention.